Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and today I'm joined by Gregory.
Hello, hello.
And Dayna.
Hello.
We are finally at our My Soul Cold Life finale. Sad.
It is. It is.
You call it that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the ending of an era, the ending of a cult classic, the ending of something that wasn't supposed to be that became, and so many years later.
Yep. So I will roll the credits and we will get into it. So episode 19, the finale, is titled "In Dreams Begin Responsibilities." So before we started, Dayna, you said you had beef. I feel like content.
I had beef because it's like, what happened in this episode? Can anyone tell me? Nothing. Nothing happened.
Let's break it down a little bit. So Jordan decided,
I know, of course. But
Jordan decided that he wants to apologize to Angela so that they get back together, in hopes that they will get back together. But Jordan's not good with words. So he asked his tutor, good old Brian, to help him write a letter. And Brian's like, I'm not getting involved. And then he was kind of like, I don't want to know any of it. He's like, but like, what would you say?
Jordan does start off though, like with this very pitiful attempt to go up to Angela and like talk to her.
I love how angry she is. She's like, what?
Yeah. Like it was, to me, I was Sharon in this scene personally. Like, who is this guy and how dare he even approach your vicinity, first off. And second off, like he pretends like nothing's happened. Like,
I should have wrote it down because it was so weird and funny. He's like, so it turns out I have like, what did he say? A rudimentary something or other with low literary skills or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, cool.
The way she reacted the whole time was like he would say something to her and she would go, and she'd just go look up and go right back to writing. And I was like, this is probably the only time throughout this entire series that I was like, yes, Angela, thank you. Have some self-respect. Good for you. He deserves the coldest of shoulders in this scenario, especially when his first words are just like all about him. He's just talking about himself. And it's like,
right. It's almost like a role reversal as far as like him not knowing what to say and her just like not paying attention to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And him trying to find the perfect thing to say to get her to like talk to him and like accept his apology once he gets to that point.
Right, and he was like the most cringe we've ever seen him be. He was just makes you wanted to crawl into a cave and die because of how
but somehow
obvious.
Didn't secondhand embarrass me as much as Angela did in the beginning. Because I felt like I was Angela sometimes.
Oh, God. Me too.
That's how I knew. That's how I knew she was drinking her coffee the way that he does, because that's what you did.
That was horrible.
Oh my God, he loves this. So do I. We're soulmates.
He's future husband.
Yeah, basically. So Rayanne's hair.
Thank God you've matured since then.
It wasn't too long ago. Remember when I was like, you wouldn't know me 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Just like how the 90s were just 5 years ago.
Yes, they were.
So Rayanne's hair was really cool. She had like different colors in it this episode with like her braids and everything.
Yeah.
Angela's still not talking to her. She's they kind of like ignore each other, or Angela ignores her and like walks the other way.
Yep.
And she's kind of feeling like Ricky's not her friend because Ricky's always hanging out with Angela, which I get, but like he's totally there for her if she needs him.
Mm-hmm. You know, she's unfortunately made some bad choices, and some choices that were beyond her control, and some of the choices that were totally in her control.
And can we agree that she's drunk? I felt like she was drunk in this whole episode.
Yeah, that whole scene where she's like, you know, stretching or whatever, and she like flings herself back up, saying I'm a positive person, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like I'm great, you know, like doing that thing where it's like she refuses to acknowledge that there could be anything wrong going on at all,
even just
any
the
negative.
way the way she was moving, and like I don't know, it just came off drunk.
Yeah,
Well, it came off as normal for Rayanne, and learned normal for Rayanne is 3 sheets to the wind as often as humanly possible. Like, you know, so like what we consider like baseline is like nah.
Right. So I kind of got my wish. Like Sharon and Rayanne kind of admitted that they're friends
in the bathroom.
Yeah, because she's like, I don't have any friends. She's like, Angela won't talk to me. Ricky, like, and she's like, she said, and Tino's not reliable.
Wow.
Literally. So meta.
And then Sharon's like, you have one, and then she like took it a step further and did like a cute we're friends thing by like pulling on her braids. Like, you could talk to me about anything because we're friends.
We're frenemies. Like, that's the thing, is like they're frenemies. Like, well, they started off as frenemies, and like, you know, in the my enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of deal.
Right.
Like, they kind of came together in a situation like they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't feel bad for Anne like at all. I kind of like all of her scenes felt very like, you reap what you sow, girl. Like, oh well.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah, she's definitely there was definitely there for her choices. That's it. She really made bad choices, and you know, as much as that age group is very forgiving, there are certain lines that shouldn't be crossed, and she crossed one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like she didn't really have much going on except that nobody would talk to her in this episode. She really, we kind of just were left hanging with she's drunk, and that's it.
Yeah, it was kind of getting like Scarlet Letter treatment. Like everyone was kind of like avoiding her because, you know, she really did cross the boundary of girls. Like, you know, Angela was hard on Jordan, so it's like you can't avoid that.
So Delia has a crush on Ricky, and I was like, oh girl, please. I was like, I thought you knew. Like, what? I was afraid this was gonna happen.
and it is just so interesting because everybody that she told, they were like, Scooby, like,
But Sharon wasn't. Sharon was just like, oh, cool.
Oh, girl.
Like, Sharon
it was kind of like,
oh, he's gay or bi or whatever. She was just like, oh, let's go talk to him. Like, she was like very supportive of it.
Yeah. It was all like oh honey moments by like everyone. Every single person that I talked to, they were like, ooh.
Even Ricky was like, ooh.
He liked it though. He was like, somebody likes me.
Yeah. He's never felt someone have feelings for him, like, or that flush of like, oh.
Yeah, when he was happy about it, I was like, oh, maybe he is bi. And then when he said, this is my chance, and Brian's like, for what? And he's like, to be straight. I was like, oh, this is a real moment. I was like, I feel like a lot of gay boys probably had this thought, like, oh, either I can have a beard until I figure shit out, or maybe I won't be gay if I just date this girl. I mean, I don't know what the kids think these days. We're from the 1900s, so I don't know if it's the
same. Wait, I had to think about that.
1999 was the time when I was in school.
I'm from the 1900s.
I graduated in 2004.
What? What do you mean you graduated in 2004?
I graduated in 2003.
What? How old am I? I was your teacher.
You were.
Oh.
You were the gay teacher.
Oh. How old am I? I'm so old.
As he takes his glasses off. Yeah, so Ricky's happy that somebody likes him. But I felt bad for the girl. I'm like, girl, really? But she knew.
Yeah.
But definitely there was this moment where you could see that Ricky was trying to figure out what was he going to choose? Like, what should he choose? Should he choose his truth? Or should he choose happiness? And that's so, like, that was the crossroads that he was at that moment. Like, can I be happy, or can I be truthful to myself? And it really was. And he chose to try to be happy.
Yeah, so he asked her, he said we should go see a movie sometime, and she's like, that'd be fun. But then I guess when she caught wind about like them dating, she was like, well, I know you're gay.
Right. Like, well, she was kind of like, no. Like, I'm sorry, you misunderstood me. I want to hang out with you. You're really cool.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
I love that. That whole interaction was probably the sweetest, like, awe moment of the whole episode. Like, it just made you, because that girl always felt very insightful. Like, even with Brian, she was very much upfront, like, about how she felt, how she didn't want to play games, like, she didn't want to, like, she already clocked Brian, like, before, 1,000 miles before he even got to her. Yeah. So, like, this interaction was very true to her character already.
Correct.
But, like, this whole episode is kind of based off of everybody having dreams, and that's kind of how it started. She had a very, like, I guess, nice dream about Ricky, and she's like, well, let me get up in that. You know what I mean? And he was so sweet too at the same time.
And she liked dancing with him. I have a feeling that if they had gotten a season 2, she probably would have been a series regular in season 2.
She had a nice
hope so.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I would hope so, because she was one of the shining. Her and Danielle, those are like the two that I really would have wanted to watch grow and be like, the main crew were fine and everything, but those were definitely the sleepers of the season, I think.
So before we finish with that scene that was happening right there, so this is the first time that Ricky out loud said that he's gay. And I believe that it was the first time on TV, not the first time on TV, but the first time like the story was followed through, and this type of thing kind of happened, which was really sweet and nice.
Maybe for a teenager, because Dynasty had Steven and he was gay, and that was the 80s.
Did they say he was gay?
He could say, I am gay.
Yeah.
In an episode, he says it. He's like, "You're gay, son." Or like, it's like, "I am gay," and then like he forces Fallon to say, like, he wants the whole family to say it in like a big moment, and Fallon's like the only one who's brave enough to say, "I'm gay."
And that's like
my brother's gay.
And that was like 82, 83. And then Melrose Place had Men, and that was 92.
Really?
Yeah. And then Ellen also have an episode on her show where she comes out as a lesbian on that.
What year was that?
That was a big.
I feel like that was like 96. That was like after this.
Yeah, I want to say that it was a big deal. I remember being a big deal.
But this was a big deal to have an out teenager, I guess, on a primetime television show. A daytime series, One Life to Live, they had Ryan Phillippe. He played a gay teen. That was the first gay teen story on a soap opera. Yeah. So that was it for Ricky. That was like a sweet little moment. She was like, I just want to like somebody, and that's it. She's like, I know you're gay. It's fine. And I was like, oh my God, they're best friends in season 2. Oh, wait.
I was gonna say, girls and gays together since the beginning of time. But like his whole arc was probably the best storyline, I think, out of everyone, in my opinion. Like, just he felt very real from the start. Like, I didn't think him was very forced. Not how I felt like Angela's character was forced to be awkward a lot of the times. Like, because, it's Claire Danes, so it's like, how could she really be as awkward as all that? But Ricky felt very, very real and fully fleshed out and realized throughout the whole season.
So Graham has to cook for some investors in order for them to be sold on the fact that he's going to be the chef at this restaurant. Otherwise, he can't be the chef. And he's like pissed. And I was just like, ugh. And Patty says that she has an ex-boyfriend who got into the restaurant business, and maybe she can give him a call and he can give him some pointers about the restaurant business.
Shaka wow wow.
I was gonna say, how are you feeling through all of these scenes? Because like every single one of them felt very charged. Like it wasn't.
Yes. So when he was yelling at her, because you know how sometimes a yelling scene could lead to a kiss, but then Patty was there, so then I felt a little bit comforted that she was like a cock block. And then the longer the episode went on, like I didn't want to see the adults because I didn't want there to be room for like a kiss to happen. I was like, I'm done with them. It's good. I'm fine. Graham never cheated. I'm good. And he didn't. But there was definitely a moment between them where it looked like it could be something.
Yeah, I would like I would like to believe he had self-control.
Well, according to the creator on the podcast that we listen to.
Well, all right, let's stop. Let's finish the
We're not talking about what she thinks yet. Anyway, we're talking about
and then we'll talk about Winnie Holzman, who is the producer and writer for My So-Called Life.
That's cheating, Tommy. Cheating.
I'm just saying he was
doing yeah. I know, and I get it.
Bugging me for 19 episodes.
Right. Tommy's just waiting for the other shooter, just waiting like it's coming. I just think that I think Graham is. I think the same thing as you, Greg. I think he's had self-control. I don't think he went into this with that in his mind. He read the room in the scene that we're talking about, where they're we finished everything and they're kind of excited that they made it happen and it all worked out kind of situation. And those little longing looks, that hug that probably lasted a little too long for comfort. Yeah. Me personally, if I was watching that hug, I'd be like, you let go, my man, thank you kind of situation. I think, but I think Graham kind of went more thank you, I'm going to leave now. You know what I mean? Whatever you got, keep it over there.
Right.
I didn't see him. The actor didn't play it like Graham was into it. Not for me anyway.
So had Graham continued to be the way that he is and how he's been all season, I think that a kiss definitely would have probably happened, but it wouldn't have gone further.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have told Patty about it, and then he would have probably got out of the restaurant.
It's just very interesting because the dynamics between Graham and Patty really was like an ebb and flow, that they were, on the same team, and then they were fighting with each other, and Patty was very, aggressive with him in trying to push him in a certain direction, and at times emasculating. It really was. And
Patty's proactive. She's very much, she wants to get it done now. If there's a problem, she wants to solve it right now. She doesn't want to wait. She doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to stew on it.
Right.
She wants to get it. She wants it to be over.
She, like I was saying before, she just built up crazy Delulu world in her mind that things are happening when they are not. It's kind of, and then she overreacts, and
because
then
she's Angela. She's Angela.
Yeah.
The episode when he was going to let her know that I have something to tell you, and he wanted to go into the business, she immediately went to, I'm having an affair.
Well, because her father's in her head, her best friend got in her head.
Yeah.
So she has these doubts now because other people are whispering in her ear.
Also, I don't know. Okay, so this could be the way because of the way I watched it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I multitask. I kind of have to. So, like, the little nuances of glances or maybe scenes, things that they may show you that might give you hints that, like, he is. I never, just beyond like that one scene in the beginning and then him cutting it off, it never truly felt to me that Graham wanted to cheat or step out on his wife ever. Like, everything about that felt like he wasn't. Was he getting needled a lot by Patty? Yes, all the time. And Patty kept pushing the boundary of like what is really appropriate for her to be like getting at him about, especially when he was just living his life, being a normal person.
I feel like
but
once
it
he,
never felt like he was looking for that to do. Never, not me. Anyway.
I feel like once he made that phone call in episode 2 to end whatever was going on, he kind of recommitted to his family and his relationship.
Yeah.
And he was
agreed.
Focused on that.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. So like this whole mess with this woman felt very like he was about business. I truly believe that he was like extremely frustrated with this woman. And like what was seen of her up until this point is that he would be frustrating to work with. And like the restaurants and business is very high stress to begin with. So it's like I believe that. It didn't feel like there was like a lovers situation. Not like maybe on her end, like unrequited, but right. I felt like Grandma was like,
yeah.
There is, the part where they were sitting down talking about the food, eating the Chinese food, talking on top of each other, almost ignoring each other was rather uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was like, because I was like, I don't want this to become something. Like, I was kind of like on the edge of my seat. And so I literally, when that weird moment where it looked like they might kiss happened, I literally went, like, my hand went up and I like smacked my leg. I was like, son of a bitch. And then it didn't happen. And I was like, oh, okay.
I paused.
I was like, here we go.
Yeah, because I had you in my mind. Like I felt like I could hear you in the distance going like, he's gonna do it, that smug bastard. Like I knew it. Like I could hear you in the distance going, I know this motherfucker gonna do that shit. Like, and honestly, like I'm alone because also a part of the podcast, like those people that were talking about it, same page, Tommy. They don't like Graham, and they were saying
they hate Graham. I don't hate Graham.
Sure.
I just don't like what he did.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I didn't see nor feel any of that from him. I felt like he was just a normal guy, literally just trying to live his life with a neurotic wife that can't keep it sanity. You know what I mean? And he was doing his best to deal with it. That is all I ever thought. But I mean, I could be missing some huge little detail that just completely blew by my head, just right over top of it.
It's funny that it's funny that you say you could like hear me in your head because I heard you in my head with the whole Ricky and Delia thing because I kept hearing you say because he's a safe boy.
He's safe. Like that's the thing. That's why I say like girls and gays together for the time. Like we know something about us inside knows guys are safe with, like we're safe with you, that you would protect us and we would protect you. Like it's like a DNA instinctual thing.
Right.
And so Ricky is such a good guy. That's why he's such a great character. Like he deserves happiness, and you could tell he's been through it.
So the guy that's supposed to meet up with Patty and Graham doesn't show. Graham has to go cook for the investors, so he's not going to be there. So it's going to be just Patty and her ex-boyfriend. But he doesn't show. But rewinding a little bit before we get to the whole Jordan and Patty situation. Patty's telling her girls about this guy. They're going through old photo albums. She talks about a dream she has where to make her look younger, they gave her long hair again.
Oh, that's right. Where Princess Diana was there. The garbage bag floats away.
Okay, hold on. Can we talk about the Princess Diana impersonator? That did not look like her at all, right?
No, it was like they bumped into somebody and they were like, This would be really funny. Let me put a blonde short wig on you. I think you need you to be
Yeah.
the Princess Diana. Somebody
Oh,
quickly go to Abraham and Strauss or J.C. Penney's and buy a quick 2-piece polyester.
And just to give you like context of where we were at in history with the royal family, it was the divorce was just happening.
No,
Oh.
it's true. There she was with her 2-piece polyester, shiny
Oh my
faux
God.
satin with shoulder pads.
And I'm like, this guy that she's talking about, I'm like, that's her Jordan Catalano. I'm like, her and Angela
Yes.
are the same person.
Literally, that's why she's so crazy about Angela. Like, and that's why she also like. If you ever see like she goes the distance to be absolutely crazy and then pulls it right back because she's like, "1 second, like I sound like my mother, or I like, you know what I mean." This is like the antithesis of what I would have done, like wanted to hear at that time. So like, there's been so many moments of Patty going like, well, you need to do this and you need to do that and you do this. And then like when the things are going crazy, she kind of like reels it all the way back in and does like the very supportive, like, I'm here for you, even things are going crazy. I'm still here for you. I'm not gonna like, you know.
And poor Danielle, she's like, did you love him? Because she's like, I have nightmares that you and Dad will break up. And she's like, no. She's like, she couldn't even explain like how she felt about him because it was like puppy love. It was a child romance. She's like, I chose to make a life with your father. She's like, it's different.
Yeah.
But Angela, because
it
she has the thing with Jordan, she's like, I know it.
Yeah.
It's
maturity. It's like you come to the realization that like this person is great because of the like where you're at right now. Like they're not gonna be like unless they were able to grow together, and that's the hardest thing is to grow at the same rate together.
Right. So Brian ends up writing a letter for Jordan to slip into Angela's locker. And
begrudgingly.
She's so moved by
yeah.
No. Rewind. Before the letter.
Rewind.
He memorizes phrases and words to say to her. So he like is like, Angela, and she's like, what? And so he like says the things that Brian told him to say, and she's just like, oh my God. She's like, thank you for saying it. Like nobody's ever said that to me. Like, wow. And she's like, we really need to have now we can have a serious talk. And he literally was like,
that was serious. We're done.
Seriously, it looked like he was like, more words. I have to say more words.
That really was
the way he said, like, we just did. And she's like, you can't just like drop the most profound shit on me, dude, and then just do. And he's like, huh?
Meanwhile, Jordan, as he professes that he's a latent reader, dyslexic, whatever, probably used every brain cell that he had to memorize those big words. And he, phew, I don't have to talk anymore. Nice job, Jordan Catalano.
Oh, God. And like the fact Angela like ate that up, just, you know what I mean? Like, oh, gosh, finally, like, exactly. It's just,
and
I
now
can't,
we can talk
girl,
more.
Run away. Get away from this boy, this little baby boy that is going to hurt you again. Like, it's just like,
And like, Brian can't help himself. He doesn't want to help more, but he can help himself. And he literally at home just starts writing like all his feelings towards Angela as if he's Jordan.
Well, what I think happened is Ricky called him out.
Mm-hmm.
He said, like, you're using Jordan. And he's like, no, Jordan's using me. It's like, yeah, but you're also using Jordan too. Like you're
Ricky's Ricky's the straight line, no pun intended, but the straight line that travels throughout this entire series.
He doesn't play games. He doesn't lie.
He can't.
The same for everyone.
Ricky can't. Listen, you know, when you are when you're in the closet and you can't speak your truth, sometimes you become kind of angry that other people don't speak their truth when it won't get them killed. So I think he really, I really think he kept them in check. He's like, I can't tell my truth because my truth will actually probably hurt me. That your truth could be said out loud. And he was the truth, even though he was hiding the biggest thing about him. But they all knew.
I think everybody, definitely. I feel that. So I say it all the time. I'm always like, it's so much easier for me to fight other people's battles, like on their behalf, and be outraged, like however treatment that other people receive, than to defend myself against said same treatment, like all the time. It's just so much easier for me just to go out and just be everybody's advocate, but my own. Like, it's impossible.
So Jordan slips the note into her locker. She reads it, and she just keeps rereading it and like picking at her favorite parts. And then on the bus going to school the next day, Brian like sees her and she's just like in a trance.
Everything is okay with her again.
And he's like, she says that, I think she says that he gave her a note because that's how the conversation starts. And he's like, so like, what was your favorite part?
Idiot.
And she's like, it's private. I can't talk to you about this. And that's when Ricky pops her bubble and is like, you know, Brian wrote that, right? And she's like, what? What are you talking about?
Well, I just want Ricky rips the Band-Aid off every time.
Yeah. Right. But she yes ends and says, yeah, of course I knew that. Like, duh. But she I don't know how she didn't put it together. Again, like we were saying, like Mr. Dyslexia, okay? Like one who has been diagnosed by a manual somehow wrote exquisite poetry about his love for you.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
That is because Angela is so self-centered that
she got sucked into the fantasy.
She believed that she cured him. Okay? Like she truly believed, and I
got him a tutor.
I was gonna say she got him a tutor. Her love cured him. Her pushing him by putting his name onto the board to get a tutor cured him. She is powerful.
Greg, you are coming for us all right now. You are literally dragging everyone for Phil.
Right? She thinks she's so fucking powerful.
Oh my God, it's so goddamn.
Praise the Lord Jesus, she healed him.
That's exactly what happened.
Her kitty cat meow meow healed him.
I wondered that actually, if like, because they end up kissing in the hallway, and poor Brian sees them kiss.
Poor Brian.
Before she finds out.
This is Brian.
And I was like, was she so turned on by this letter that now she's ready to fuck? Like, let's go down to the boiler room right now.
I think it's exactly what I think. It's literally what you both said. Like, she's in the fantasy.
Yeah,
it's beautiful here, and legitimately that she cured him. That is so poignant. Like, oh, you nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Oh, good Lord, help us all.
Yeah.
So Jordan stops by the house, and that's when Patty's ex-boyfriend has canceled, and she invites him in.
Which is totally, the writing of that was really, truly ironic, because it does kind of lead to the fact that Angela and Patty are the same person.
For sure.
I could draw a line to those two just from that alone.
They finally
kind of felt like Patty. Yeah, absolutely. So she was like, "Come on in, let me pick this Cupid's brain about my daughter." Absolutely. But I also felt like
she knows about Rayanne and him, so I guess it's kind of like, let me hear his side of the story and see like what's going on here.
Absolutely. I love how Patty is with all of Angela's friends. I feel like she is like the perfect supportive mama bear that like all these wayward teens desperately need. Like everyone but Angela wants.
Because
That's
she's
another thing
literally
too.
been through every one of their situations.
Yes,
Like Patty,
absolutely.
as straight laced and like
Square.
she as she is now, she was a wild child.
Mhm.
It seems.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said that's why she goes so over the deep end in anxiety land because that's what she lived, and then also that's the same reason why she reels it in like at the ninth hour, like when excuse me, when her daughter and her friends need her the most to be supportive, not to be screaming in their face, freaking out, or anything like that. That's who she is
Yeah.
because she's been where they
She's like,
are,
remember
and
what it
she
was
knows.
like. Remember what you did.
She does have some.
Yeah, and remember how your parents reacted to this exact same scenario. You don't want to do that, but it doesn't hold her back from being a little too crazy about like, other things. That's what I love about Pat. But she gets trampled on and dragged by her family every chance they get. Like the first
Like
scene, she
every
was like, "Oh,
mama.
you want to hear about my
So did the two of you clock how many times she opened up that carton of milk to refill Jordan's glass? She must have opened 2 half gallons of milk. Because one was empty and she opened up a fresh one. She just kept giving him milk. I'm like, Jesus. I was like, does he never go home? Is he just starving and hungry all the time?
That's why he's got to lean against the wall.
That's what I mean. Like she's like the perfect support system for every single person. Like for even to Angela, but Angela doesn't appreciate it. All the other kids do, which I love. And I also felt like she was also kind of like reliving a little bit, like because she was going to meet her ex who weirdly looks just like Jordan Catalano and does the same kind of like not so good guy, bad boy, material. Like she was like, oh, kind of like going back into the past. Like if she was able to like ask him at that time, like what he was thinking during when she was with him at the same, like kind of weird kind of like past type situation. I don't know. It was kind of felt a little awkward, like and cool at the same
The
time.
other layer to this was what's her name? The woman with the restaurant said that jealousy is healthy, like it's good for a relationship. It makes you feel like the other person still wants you if they're jealous or whatever. So when Graham calls and says that they got the restaurant, that was before the almost kiss thing happened, and I was like, okay, that's enough. I don't ever have to see Graham again. Thank you. Because I didn't want anything to happen.
So, little question: do you think that if she didn't say that she was jealous, that he would have kissed her?
Jealous, and she was like, and she said, "Thank you."
I just to take a step back,
like it made her feel good that he was jealous.
The scene where they were in the bedroom. So the scene when they were in the bedroom where they were talking about she was going to call the boyfriend and whatever, and Graham is like, wait, I thought you said you were with 4 people. And it really was allegedly, or 5 or whatever it was. And she just kind of shrugged it off. It kind of was like, yeah, I had a past. Like I was a real person.
Wasn't that when she admitted that she did it to her friend, that she slept with her friend's boyfriend?
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, I thought you were with 4 people.
Right. And that was 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she definitely does.
They would slowly put in these little nuggets about her past.
That's what I'm saying. The little details. It could be, like I said, little things that happened, like maybe that whole episode about the class, which was like, to me, was her just being crazy Patty and Graham's just kind of living with it. Maybe it was supposed to be more like Graham was really more put upon than I thought, like in that particular episode. That's supposed to lead into like why she would feel so incredibly insecure about them around each other,
So Brian's riding his bike in circles on the block like he normally does. Angela comes home. She gets dropped off by the teacher after, setting up for the play, selling tickets, whatever. and she has a talk with Brian about the letter, and they just like talk in circles. He had his moment to admit that he wrote it, and you were like, he's such a coward. Because she literally was like, did you write this? And he was like, no. And then I don't know. It was like, I kind of shipped them for a minute, for like a split second. I was like, I could see them.
There was no, they had at the very end, when they were locking eyes, like literally right before Jordan walked down the sidewalk and saw her and called her name, there was a moment.
Yeah.
They were having a moment, because like it was about as close as he could get to admit it to her, like how he felt.
She was gonna kiss him. I thought when she like got a confirmation that he wrote it, that she was gonna kiss him.
Me too.
And then Jordan was like, Angela, and I was like, oh. Right. And then it was almost like he, I don't know. It felt weird. It felt like it probably wasn't on purpose because Jordan doesn't think. But I guess he sees Brian as like a friend now. So he's like, what's up, Brian? And then he just kind of like claims his property. It was like he pulled Angela and was like, put her in the car to drive off.
Put your seatbelt on, Angela.
While she had like unfinished business with Brian.
Again, that's why it makes Jordan like run, girl, run. Like that kind of behavior. Like Brian is the better choice because he allows Angela to decide one way or the other. He's not asserting himself on top of her. If anything, he's trying to pretend like as if he doesn't, because I think it's mostly out of self-preservation. If he says it to her and she knows, then that means it's obvious that she's actively hurting him. Like to him now, it's all like ignorant because she doesn't think anything about him or assume anything about him. Right. So I think that a lot of the avoidance of admitting it is purely cowardice, and on top of it, self-preservation, because like it would crush him to know that like she would reject him. Like the rejection is worse than unrequited, you know.
So then the scene goes that, you know, he says hop in the car and she just stands there, and you know, it is a very weird, because I'm kind of thinking about this right now.
Suddenly she's in a love triangle.
So here she is in this love triangle between, you know, the heart and the brain, and she like needs to make a decision. And Jordan said, come in the car. Your mom knows it's okay. And there it was. The mother's still controlling everything. Like, think about that. She's not even there, and she's like consciously or subconsciously. I just kind of thought that was like, you know, wow. I was like, all right, so mom said it was okay, and so she hops in the car
because she met him finally.
Also, it's like
so dope, like Rand had met him before.
Well, it's also like the path of least resistance, right? Like, mom rubber stamped it, then this is going to be smooth sailing. Also, this is everything I've ever wanted. I had a dream about him last night. Like, why wouldn't I go this way? Especially like, and also it's kind of like, does the letter matter? Like, there's no time to be thinking and to make that split decision. That's why probably the next season would probably really play into which you know. But at the same time, like I felt this whole episode, it was just like any other episode. Like nothing of like the only huge consequence I felt like that came out of this was Ricky coming out. Everything else was kind of like, oh, okay. You know, Brian's still acting like her. She wants to be with Jordan, ends up with Jordan. It was just, you know, Pat and Graham are still together and they still have this weird whatever is going on, but you know, and nothing happened.
Finale, Ricky coming out kind of ended his story as opposed to leaving this open tangent. Well, you know, like when I say ending his story, the dynamics of him not saying what he is and everybody kind of eye facing it, just like
he was like out, not out, because while everybody knows that was the first time he said it out loud, and he only said it to Delia. So that could have been like their little secret.
Right.
It didn't necessarily, and I'm sure Rayanne knows. I don't know.
Everybody knows. So she hops in the car and she drives away.
And it just like closes on
scene.
Brian.
That's what I'm saying. Like nothing of like insaneness, like crescendo felt like it really happened. Maybe it was like some of the most powerful stuff happened like 4 episodes ago. You know, like it didn't feel like anything crazy. Really, like I don't know.
And 19 episodes is a weird number to end on.
Yeah.
It's almost like I feel like maybe they would have had 22, but maybe they're not. Because so let's talk about the podcast. It sounds like kind of like write this as if it's a finale, but also leave it a little bit open ended just in case we decide.
That's what she said.
Yeah,
that's what she said. They kind of straddled both worlds. Where like the chance that we could get renewed, they didn't know. That's what she said. She didn't know they were going to get renewed, so they wrote it as if there was that was the last episode. That's fine, but it also left open-ended things and I think that's what kind of neutered this episode a little bit. Right. Like I feel like they kind of used the best stuff that they had in the episode before and before that. Like I think like the stuff recorded, and like the overdose, Ricky getting kicked out of his house, all that stuff felt like finale shit. Like stuff leading up to the finale, like not was making you think like what's gonna happen. But at the same time, I'm also in 2024 and crazy things have happened in TV since this came out. So I could be a spoiled brat who doesn't understand good writing at the same
time. So I went into the series knowing that it was gonna end probably on a cliffhanger because it was canceled. But I guess because I had that mindset going into the finale, I was looking for little crumbs of finality, I guess. So I was happy with Ricky. Yeah. I was happy that because remember we were like, what are we looking for? I was happy that I got my Sharon and Rayanne friendship. I was happy that Graham didn't cheat.
Me too.
And I guess that's really all you could ask for, knowing that it was canceled.
For sure.
So I feel content. I actually really think that the show is rewatchable, and I understand why people love it.
Yeah. I wish they didn't do what they did with Angela and Brian. I wish that she just I wish that scene maybe happens, knowing that we're never gonna see their relationship bloom, because that's kind of like the hook for me. That would be the next season pull in. Like I would love to watch how Jordan and Brian and Angela navigate this relationship in the latter half next semester, apparently, of their sophomore year. And potentially, but also like how everybody else, how the relationship, if it ever rekindled with Rand, would be like maybe a secondary. I did love seeing like in the past episode how much Sharon and Angela kind of reconnected. It felt like they just kind of fell right back into like their old friendship, which was nice.
Right.
But yeah, like listening to the podcast and the people who were doing it, they loved this series, and I was kind of like felt out of like, I don't know, maybe out of the loop, because it's like the series was okay for me, but it like Angela was so cringe. It was like almost hard to watch from that angle. And then again, like Jordan Catalano, who is like a huge part of this whole storyline, barely breaks like a halfway point into the story, and you're like, dude, what are we doing?
He's barely
woke. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like sometimes it was like, I guess my expectations of the show were probably too high because of like the lore around it.
Yeah,
and I feel like I could have definitely liked it more if I didn't like understood it to be a really amazing show that virgin like all these different celebrities, and like that it was just, like groundbreaking, and because like to me it was kind of like
for 1994.
Yeah, right, exactly. If I was like old enough to watch it in 1994, I probably would have felt the same way. But like watching it now with like adult eyes, I'm coming at it from a totally different headspace, and I feel like I may have missed the point of the show like completely, because I was too obsessed with Patty and how she was trying to navigate motherhood, and then Angela was just so cringe. Jared Leto is just I can't stand him. So like him young doesn't make me like hot for him. You know, like, Robbie he's supposed to be. So like the disconnect between the hosts of this and me felt very like broad because they were like gushing over the whole show, and I was like, oh, okay.
I feel like this is the most realistic portrayal of teenagers I've seen on TV.
Sure,
As
I can
far
agree
as
with that.
like the way they think, the way they speak, the awkwardness.
Yeah.
There was no like over the top. I mean, it is TV. There were over the top moments, but there was no
real.
like unrealistic, I guess, things that you would see on like a Dawson's Creek or the OC or 90210, like one of the more heightened, extravagant teen dramas where the parents you never see.
Where there's no restraint or guardrail.
And you had said it at some point. This felt more like a family drama, which I liked because you got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was really invested in the adults also. So
that's what I mean. Like maybe it was just like I'm coming at it from like a different place in my life. That like I feel like if I watched it when I was in
there kind of moment.
Also maybe because it felt too close. That's how you know it was really well written to real life because like I felt like I've been with Angela. I probably said some of the dumb cringe shit that Angela said, and I've also seen guys like Jordan Catalano and crush over them. Like it's and like have friends like Rayanne who are probably just doing the worst for themselves, and you have no control over that. Like
Jordan did drop a little nugget when he was trying to get Angela to talk to him that the band got back together.
Yeah,
got
was it like it's like Jesus Christ, the cringe. That's what I mean. Like sometimes when I think about like sometimes in the past, because I dated a guy very not exactly like that, but like a hardcore guy. Wore like all the big like pants and stuff and had a band. It was, and I just like, and they were just so serious about this band that was going nowhere. Like, and it's just to think about how I was so invested in him because he's so cool and alternative, and I'm gonna be alternative because he's alternative. Like it was just I'm in this show and I don't like it kind of feeling.
I know his soul.
Like I don't want to. Stop showing my past. I don't want to see it. I've repressed it for a long time. We don't need to put it on display in a 19 episode series, So
the show is triggering for you.
Yeah, like that's probably it. That like it's not the writers are very, very. It's all very well written. Well acted. Claire Danes is amazing. No wonder she's a wonderful actress. I mean, like all of them should have had.
Claire Danes won a Golden Globe for her portrayal of Claire Danes, and
Claire Danes won an award for her portrayal of Claire Danes.
Oh, sorry, is that what I said? Whoopsies. Totally. Yeah. Claire Danes won a Golden Globe for the Best Actress of the TV series drama. She was also nominated for an Emmy Award.
Okay, pause for a moment. Yeah. Don't the Golden Globes air in like January or February? Imagine winning a Golden Globe and the show was canceled. Like what?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like the fact that it was canceled, is probably the craziest part considering how much it was watched, and that like
so I did some research. At that time for prime time, about 7.5 million viewers per episode, which
people would kill for those ratings.
Yeah, the internet states that was low for back then.
Yeah,
because back then there were 3 networks, so you needed at least 10 million or more to stay on the air. But now shows average like 3 million.
Yeah. So was it Claire Danes who was like, nah, I'm actually Claire Danes who said I didn't want to go, or did they really just cancel it?
According to Winnie Holtzman, I think they were under the impression that there was a possibility for it not to be picked up again, and so she did leave the last episode semi-ambiguous, for it to kind of go either way and let your imagination kind of happen.
She should have wrote a book or something concluding it.
You know, it's very interesting because so Claire Danes got a Golden Globe for Best Actress. Claire Danes was nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Actress. The director was nominated for the pilot. Winnie was nominated for writing, and Snuffy Walden was nominated for the title main theme. And they received a lot of awards, nominations and awards during this time that I guess the 7.5 million viewers per episode at that time wasn't enough.
But that's why there's a following, because 7 million people is a lot of people. But it wasn't, I guess, in the eyes of...
Well, I mean, like, you have to think about it in 1994 standards. So, like, compare that with, like, was Friends on at the same time? Because that was, like, the tippity top of...
So the show aired on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time against the top 10 sitcoms Mad About You, Friends on NBC, Martin, Living Single, New York Undercover on Fox, which could possibly be why the ratings were a little bit lower than they were
and
hoping
still got
for.
7 million people to watch.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, if you think about what was Friends pulling at that exact same time slot, right, against them,
and if this is Friends for a season, they weren't pulling like the mega ratings that they were when they were huge, but still, NBC had that comedy block that was like unbeatable.
Yeah.
So Greg put together a little slideshow of like how the actors look now.
I was a little kind of interested on how old they were when they started. So Claire Danes was 15 when she started on My So-Called Life, and
so she was legit.
And this is 45 right now. So yeah, I was able to kind of pull pictures of each of the actors. What they look like this year, this 2024. Jared Leto was 22 at the time, and he is now 52.
I thought I said 62.
52. He's still beautiful.
If you say so.
Yeah, he's beautiful. Wilson Cruz was 20, and he is 50. A fine fucking 50.
Oh, yes, he does. He's like a fine ass wine. Nice.
He really is beautiful.
That is, sir. Oh, sir. Okay. What's he doing now?
So he's on Star Trek right now, and a whole bunch of other things. Ryan Graff was 20 when she recorded the episodes, and is now 50.
And she's a countess.
A countess, correct. Well, I think they just got divorced.
Yeah, but she'll always be a countess unless she remarries. Because I used to watch Real Housewives of New York, and there was a countess, and she didn't want to remarry because she didn't want to give up her title.
That's because that's what happens when you watch too much TV. Useless information.
Hey, I know about the royal family.
Yes, you do. God.
But what I wonder is, since she was a countess, if she had to stop acting, like kind of how like Meghan Markle.
She's still acting?
I don't know. Can you look up and see if she's
acting? I don't think she is. I think she was raising a family, and she was married for 19 years. She was on a few different TV shows.
Okay. She was actually on 1 or 2 episodes of 90210 the season prior, as in a guest star role.
Nice.
Let's see who else.
Brian was 16 at the time and is now 45.
Wow, him and Claire Danes were the youngest. She was 15, he was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The only other thing I've ever seen him in is Felicity.
Yeah, I think he's kind of behind the scenes actor right now.
A voice actor?
Yeah, no, just behind it, like either audio or directing, producing kind of deal. Graham was 39 at the time, and he is now 60.
Oh my God, he was my age.
He is now 68 years old.
He's your age.
Yes, he's our age.
He looks super familiar. I've probably seen him in things.
He was in a lot of different TV shows. And then, who's next?
Probably Patty.
Oh, Patty was 40 at the time, and she's now 70. Sharon was 16 at the time, and she is now 50. And then we have Danielle was 13, and she's now 42. She's
does not look 42.
Yeah, she's done a lot of yeah, she looked really good. She's done a lot of voiceovers, and she's a voice actress.
Oh.
She really hasn't done that much in front of the camera, but definitely has a pretty decent voice acting career.
She should have had a spin-off. They should have tried to reboot it a few years later with Danielle as the main character.
Oh my God!
And Angela to college.
Nobody's listening to me.
And send Angela to college.
Oh, the Y2K version. Oh, hell yeah! I would watch that. Speaking of, would you guys like to see a reboot of this show?
No.
A reboot of the show?
Like with the main cast coming back? Like the original?
Or just
not a continuation. Like, just take the same story, but recast it. Put it in today's time frame, maybe instead.
No.
Or if they do a time, like a historical.
I think the family dynamics for the 90s was bubbling onto the surface of a repression of the 70s and the 80s, or even the 60s, because Pam and Graham were really a product of their parents that were really stifling them as human beings, and attempted to, kind of bubble up from there, and then a continuation of their children, that I think this type of family dynamic wouldn't make sense today, because I think that we are all a little bit more self-aware. And I'm not saying that there isn't teenage angst. Please understand, I'm not saying that there isn't teenage angst. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm a teacher. Trust me, I had two of my students almost make me cry today, because they were just like, you could feel the discomfort that was oozing out of their pores. But where I'm going with this is that Angela, Brian, all of these children were never disrespectful to adults.
Yeah.
They were dismissive, but not disrespectful. That I think in order for you to do that teenage kind of angst, that there would have to be a layer of disrespect that would have to come with it. I'm not saying not all kids are disrespectful. Please, that's not what I mean. That's not what I'm saying. But for a drama series, there would have to be that kind of.
Yeah. Well, they have shows like Euphoria. On the comedy side, Modern Family has done its own spin on a sitcom-ish version, upfront version. I would think that this show, if they tried to redo it, it would be fundamentally different. They would probably try to do a similar family structure, but the dynamic between the mother, the daughter, the younger sister, the dad, and all that would probably, and the friends would all be different. They would have to. It would have to,
and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So, do you know the concept of Party of Five?
No.
Okay, so there's five children. Their parents were killed in a car accident, and their older brother's 24, and he's their legal guardian. Yeah. So there's 5 of them, so that's why it's Party of 5. And then shenanigans, teen angst, teens raising teens, whatever. So when they rebooted it in 2017, 18, made it a Latino family. and their
Yeah.
parents were not killed; they were deported because they were evil parents. So the kids, it was the same concept: kids raising kids. So it was the 5 kids or whatever, and it only lasted 13 episodes. So it had the bones. It was 5 kids, but completely different concept, and that's why I think this, like you said, it would have to be.
I think that the dynamics would have to be so different because
it would be
of the
its
time.
Yeah, it would be
because of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
And it might not be as
Well,
charming.
yeah.
Well, some certain
Interesting,
things
right?
about, well, like also certain things that they're dealing with just don't exist in schools as much anymore. Like the whole prevalence of technology
Right.
and social media didn't exist. That's a whole nother layer that involves
Jordan could have just AI'd a speech.
Literally, Brian would never have to help him. He would have Google Chat GPT'd it or whatever. Like that's what I'm saying. Like there's avenues, like especially if they leaned it into more comedic versus drama, do like a true dramedy, if you will. Like they probably could do it, but like Anna be like acting a completely different way with different types of slang, different everything if they push it forward. But if they let's try to do it in that same time period, but maybe it's it'd be a great little storyline to see everything from Sharon's point of view or Rayanne's point of view, like we were talking about. Like if we kind of can go through the whole storyline again,
I would like that.
but from different characters, like internal monologue, what they were doing at home while Angela was, at home doing her own thing, or from Danielle's point of view,
or
something along these lines would be pretty cool.
They could do with kind of what they experimented with this. Each episode have somebody else be the narrator, like just.
But one of the things that was extremely charming about why this was so special is because it was on the edge, the cusp, the end. I don't mean like the edge, like it was great, even though it was, but it was on the cusp of you still rode your bike home. It was still kind of safe, even though you came from either a 2-parent family or a single parent family or your family that abandoned you. There was still a village that was taking care of you.
Just be home by nightfall, pretty much.
Like they were at the end of
that generation,
that fantasy. Even Ricky, even though Ricky didn't have family and, his aunt and uncle left him, or cousins left him without him even knowing and left him homeless, there was still a village that was there to catch him. And as much as I just think that we are right now in 2024 so overwhelmed. Of course, I believe everybody would catch each other, but we're so overwhelmed that somebody like Ricky would slip through the cracks.
Right.
So that's just my analyzation of, doing it. So so then the story would be that Ricky slips through the cracks. Then Ricky,
it would be that, or it would be that, or it would be something along the lines of like where he would end up in like some sort of foster situation, or like and also that's another part of like this whole storyline that probably like shades everything for it, is that this time period was like the beginning of the end in a way. Like we were sleepwalking our way through all of the stuff that was happening this time period in society, that like catalyst for some of the worst stuff that's happening now. Correct. So it's like you're sitting there like going like, oh, the 90s were so great, and it's like, yeah, that was like that was the last time before 9/11 that like we were happy in a way.
Before we were aware there was evil, but especially here in the United States, evil was not at our doorstep.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
And it kind of changed.
I mean, but the thing is, it like weirdly it was just such under the surface. It's like when we all believe that like, oh, there's a potential for racism to go away, like that was ever actually going to happen. Like it was like people were starting to understand, like it felt like there was the Hands Across America. Like it was a lot of stuff that was positive.
The show did a lot of groundbreaking things. I feel like there were a lot of shocking. Like I was surprised they were talking about. Like what was it? Episode 3. We had a school shooting episode,
Right.
Gun violence. It wasn't a school shooting. It was somebody dropped the gun,
Yeah.
but somebody
But
brought a gun
no,
to
it was
school.
still, that's enough.
In
to-
1994 for them
Yeah.
to be
Like
talking
I
about
said,
that.
it's literally the tip of the iceberg
Yeah.
of stuff that was already like things that were already bubbling under the surface hasn't quite like boiled over yet. It's
And
kind of what
then-
I'm saying. Like you're still there.
That episode ending with the metal detectors at the entrance of the school, which by the way, we never saw again. They were not there. We saw them exit and enter that school for some reason.
Wow.
That lasted a week.
Yeah. So my so-called podcast dealing with my so-called life. It's an absolutely charming podcast. But one episode was talking to Winnie Holtzman and where she thought things were going to go. So the first thing is she absolutely loved and would have kept Tito out of the scene.
Mhm.
Like she
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
I thought that was great and wonderful and, a nice little piece that was there.
And I like that the host actually brought up the fact that Tina was like in the next room and Rayanne was like, I gotta go, otherwise I'm gonna miss my ride. And it was like, he was like right there, but like we didn't see him.
She also said that she kind of overused him. Like she felt like she used him like every time that she needed like a little something, she just throw a little
Yeah.
Like a
Tito
cheap laugh.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was actually, we all winked with you.
Yeah.
We all winked with you, which was wonderful. Sharon, she was thinking about
Getting her pregnant.
Getting her pregnant. That would be a 1990s kind of,
teen pregnancy. Oh my
teen
god.
pregnancy.
I mean, there's a whole show about that. It's called Secret Life in the American Teenager.
Yeah. There would Brian would have a girlfriend.
And
Was it going to be Delia? I can't remember what
No.
she said.
she said he would have a girlfriend, and Angela and Jordan would be together, and
And
then they would like meet up and talk about their relationship problems.
and with their actual love for each other blossoming, which I thought was wonderful.
See, that
Patty,
would frustrate me so much.
yeah, absolutely. Patty and Graham
would split up because
would
Graham,
split up because he does have an affair. Yeah. That's what she was thinking about going with it.
You knew. Well, it just goes to show she was writing it really well because she was laying that groundwork.
Yeah.
You could see it was going, and like as soon as you hear it, you're like, of course, it makes sense.
wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The girl though, didn't you say she was on ER?
No. That was the brother's girlfriend, the redhead, when they went upstate.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So so she thought she would move into the direction where Graham and Patty do separate.
And she goes through a depression.
And Patty goes through a fairly severe depression where Angela has to take on a little bit more responsibility in the household and be a little bit more of the mom figure and kind of keep the house together. And I think she wanted to explore, I apologize if I'm paraphrasing or leading in the wrong direction. She really wanted to explore Angela having to step up to the plate and be a little bit more responsible and a mom in the house while she while Patty's going through this divorce. But then an interesting thing is that she was going to really delve into the misunderstanding that Ricky had with living with his teacher and how people were going to find out that Ricky was living with two out gay men.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ricky being a young teenage boy, Ricky, whether or not they knew or don't know that he's gay at that time, that there was going to be an uproar in the school and people were going to do something about it and protest it.
And that her and her best friend were going to be on opposite sides of the issue.
So her and Camille were going to be on opposite sides of the issue, where Camille was going to take a more conservative stance against it, and this was going to get
Her to snap out of it.
Patty
much.
out of her depression and get herself dressed and get herself to the school board meetings and fight for Ricky. So she shows up again, which is very interesting of a way to kind of go into it.
It really destroys
And-
Graham's character though, because then like your family hates you at this point.
Yeah.
You cheated, and now it's like you
and then you
abandoned
pushed
them.
your mother into a depression. So that would have been a very interesting thing.
Thank God it was canceled.
That would be
That would have been so sad. Damn, Graham.
I would have had a lot of moments. I've been like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
not all
so
that.
those are the kind of things that she saw and visioned. And, you know, she had even said, because in this podcast, they were asking for more information.
And she's
And-
like, I didn't think about it.
She
She's
was,
like,
she was being very honest about it.
She's like, we weren't picked up, so why would I think about it?
You know, she just moved on. You know, like, think about this. Like, it was a paycheck. And I don't mean it's a paycheck.
When you're
like,
a professional writer, you're looking for the next project.
yeah, so she had to like put it to bed, and she kind of had to move on to the next project. You know, but
because
she was,
like as an artist, when you create things, have like once you release it out into the world, you have no idea how it's going to be received or where it's going to go from there. And you're kind of on the ride just as much as any of your viewers are, to a certain degree. And I get it totally.
yeah.
100%.
As an artist, I will say that when I create something, I'm actually, my success is if one person likes it.
Yeah.
That means it's not just me, because if one person likes it, they validate what I was attempting to kind of put forth and what I want you to see. So when one person does like it, it validates who I am, and that's all that I need as an artist. So to write something as an artist, and not just one person liked it, but 7.5 million people liked it, that's kind of like a really big deal, and it is absolutely wonderful.
They kept coming back.
And one of the hosts said that she watches it once a year. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
like
dedication.
she loves it. And
Like 30 years later, I don't know when this podcast was released, but however many years, decades later, it is just as relevant, to the point where you get a friggin' Zoom call and you're interviewed about it. You know, like that's how deep in the psyche, in the zeitgeist, in society and pop culture, that this show has like lived rent free in people's minds.
yeah, I really, as much as I hated Angela, I loved Claire.
All right, truth time. Was there finally a moment where you realized you hadn't seen it all?
So there were, on the last,
Because every episode you were like, oh, I did see
The
that.
world wants to know.
So at the last episode, there were one or two visual parts of the scene where I was like, oh, I remember this, but I couldn't remember the details. It was like a fuzzy dream. It was like Princess Di was in my dream with me, wearing her J.C. Penney's, you know, 2-piece matching set with a belt on top of the jacket.
When Patty had the pregnancy scare, and he was like, she does get pregnant. He had me convinced.
Well, because I couldn't remember. So again, I remember that
I was like, yeah,
that there was a pregnancy scare. I just didn't remember what the answer was to it. So that was the fuzzy detail.
Oh, that's so funny.
I don't know why, like maybe like pop culture, I felt like I knew that too, and I was like, yeah, no, I think you're right. I think she is pregnant.
Or
He
get
accepted
pregnant.
That's what we call it. He accepted your brain with a thought and a memory that you didn't have.
Right. And you know, and just Ricky's character really kind of was just there and truthful. Brian's character was all of the boys. All of the boys that loved the pretty girl, and the pretty girl didn't love that boy. And he tried and tried and tried, and he couldn't get it. And, you know, Rayanne's character was our crazy friend that we loved to hang out with.
I was thinking about that today.
Kept her at arm's length.
I was thinking about that today. I don't think Rayanne would have lived very long. I think she would have overdosed at some point, either as a teen or in her 20s. She would have just burnt out young.
Well, she keeps going the way she's going, absolutely.
Yeah. And then Sharon is like the perfect friend that has her own insecurities.
Who knows? Had the show continued, maybe they would have killed Rayanne at some point. You never know.
Oh God, I would have cried.
It would have been a crazy emotional episode, probably.
I would have been devastated with that one.
Yeah.
And then Sharon is this, I'm trying to be perfect and a good girl while still putting out,
Sharon loves that.
Living the life. Not bad. I mean, like she was doing all of it. Like she was just as living life as Ren was on her own terms. Like I never got the vibe that Sharon was like the uptight, I'm doing all this to be perfect person. It was just like, well, I'm just living my authentic self just as much as Angela was, even though like I felt like every character was living as authentically as who they were as they could at the time. It's just because they were teens. They had no idea who they were. So they're like really finding out. Like Ricky was finding like her comment about Ricky and like how she purposely wanted to make like his sexuality ambiguous, like he doesn't know what he's in. He's 15. Like how does one really truly know what you want out of life until like you experience it,
and
right?
he hasn't experienced it yet. Obviously his character is gay. Obviously he's gay, but like he didn't know. Like even he didn't know. And then we had
I would have really liked, so in the pilot we had mentioned that Patty was adopted and that she had been searching for her birth family her whole life.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I would have liked to have that explored and see how that affected her growing up, and maybe that's why she was a wild child, because she always felt like she didn't belong.
And then we have Jordan's character. Jordan's character is that quiet boy that walked down the hallway with his hair in his face and happened to be good looking, but the system failed him. The system failed him. He fell through the cracks. He fell through the cracks. He has a learning disability. Nobody figured out he had a learning disability. Whether or not he knew he had a learning disability, and his personality developed around that by being this aloof, kind of quiet, leaning against the wall.
So do you think he's like playing at bars in his band his whole life, like as an adult?
Yeah, he's like the kid that turns into the adult that doesn't get out of a basement apartment. No disrespect for anybody in basement apartments, but like, I'm just painting a picture. I'm telling a story. Doesn't get out of, his parents' basement apartment until 41.
Yeah. You already dragged us with we cured him with our kitty cat.
Yeah.
Today.
Like I think Jordan will make a great dad.
Yeah.
I think Jordan will make a great dad, and I think he will try to do everything that his parents didn't do for him. I think he will try to do it, but I think he's going to struggle.
Could you imagine if Rayanne got pregnant by Jordan from that one time?
That's just
my soap opera brain working.
Wow.
The way Jordan's vibe gives me that like he could go one of two ways. He could either go like the way of like the loser gets hooked to drugs and just slowly wastes away his life for however many decades he lives it, or he like pivots completely up because some like a kid comes into his life or something happens where he just completely turns a leaf and he's like that dad that had a crazy past, like how Patty was crazy mom but lived her life living up to that point, like that's how I kind of see Jordan could go one of either way. It's really like, who do you surround yourself with? Like I would think that if him and Angela were happy and then they were together, yeah, that's where his life go. But we'll never know.
Thank you both for covering My So-Called Life with me. Dana and I will return to our regularly scheduled program of Dawson's Creek.
Back to Dawson's Creek, where they stole all the storylines from My So-Called Life.
Yeah. Who knows? You know, a writer has to get their rocks off somewhere. If it's not,
it's all My So-Called Life, and they were like,
correct.
check.
If it wasn't Pennsylvania, it's in where's Dawson's Creek in Dawson's Creek.
It's in like Boston, Rhode Island,
yeah,
area,
Boston,
right?
Yeah.
But they shot it in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Hmm.
But all right, well, thank you for joining us for My So-Called Life. As always, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, for Dawson's Creek, have a great night.
Bye, everybody.